everyone, it's Hailey Bachrach here to introduce you to Henry VI Part 2 for the Shakespeare 2020 project. Henry VI Part 2 picks up more or less exactly where Part 1 left off, with King Henry VI about to marry Margaret of Anjou, a French princess. One thing that I think is particularly exciting about this play is the way that it forces us to re-examine what exactly we think a history play is and includes. I think a lot of us going in probably had this stereotype that a history play is a bunch of old white guys with beards talking about politics, and then sometimes they stop talking about politics for a second so they can have a battle and kill each other, and then they talk about politics some more. And if you're mostly familiar with Shakespeare's later history plays like Henry IV and Henry V, that probably seems to be mostly true. But Henry VI, Part 2 in particular, really radically challenges this idea of what a history play stereotypically includes. One key place it does this is with his female characters. I mentioned Margaret of Anjou, who we met very briefly at the end of Part 1, but who steps into a much more important role here in Part 2, providing a transgressive political force that refuses to obey any of the rules both the characters and in some ways our assumptions about the plays themselves try to put around her. Another equally transgressive female character is named Eleanor Cobham. She's the wife of the Duke of Gloucester, Humphrey, who we met in the last play. It kind of explodes onto the scene with a very interesting subplot. And between them, these two female characters really force us to re-examine what it means to be a historical actor and who we assume are the characters who hold power and how they hold power. Another place that we challenge the assumptions about a history play is questions of class. History plays are named after kings. We think of them as being about aristocrats. These days, the equivalent is politicians, the people who are at court, where things happen. But Henry VI Part 2 never loses track of the threads of lower-class discontent that are running throughout this world. Characters are consistently confronted with lower-class characters who challenge their perspectives and are often fairly brutally repressed. Late in the play, one of the most famous parts of this play is something called the Cade Rebellion, which you'll find out what that is, but in some ways the title gives it away. It's an uprising, a rebellion, led by lower-class characters. You'll see that it's a little more complicated than that, and several aristocrats have their hands in sparking it. But even so, the voices of these characters rising to the forefront of the action is not something that we really expect of a history play. And it's an exciting reminder, again, that Shakespeare was aware of things happening at the periphery of what the stereotype of aristocratic, masculine history was meant to contain. This is a very messy play in certain ways, but if you pay close attention, all of the threads of the plot really carefully weave together in an exciting way. I think it's a really great play. It feels like a place when Shakespeare's really beginning to feel his voice, especially in the terms of character, and I really hope you enjoy it as much as I do.